welcome back, my good people on LinkedIn. Welcome back to Meet the Experts. We are so happy to have you here. And guess what? I have a beautiful, beautiful doctor of nursing practice, Dr. Elaina McAdams. She's going to join us today. And let me tell you, I met her at two conferences in one weekend. So she is a force to be reckoned with. Come on in, Dr. McAdams. I'm going to call you Elaina if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Casey, for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, so happy to spotlight you and your excellence. I heard you speak. I said, wow, what a powerful woman. So I am just happy to have you here.
Glad to be here. I can't wait to get started.
Okay, ready for some rapid fire questions? Let's go.
Absolutely.
I got some prepared for you. So, in terms, you've been in leadership for a long time. So, in terms of legacy and leadership, if you were standing before 100 emerging nurse leaders, what is one powerful statement you would want to leave them with about leadership, innovation, and legacy in healthcare?
Oh my gosh, that's really an important question. I believe that legacy isn't just about what we leave behind. It's what we build into others while we're still here. So when you're in healthcare, we go to school, we have all of our degrees, and many of us have titles and all the alphabet soup. But it's not just about the titles; it's about how you use your influence to make the system more humane, more innovative, and better than you found it. So legacy is about how you pour into others and how they take that with them to be able to change the health system and themselves in their own lives.
I told y'all she's good. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing. So my next question is, when we're talking, so you're on the side of education and you're also in the side of practice, and you've created something very innovative. So I'm going to pick your brain. So as you bridge the gap between the classroom learning, what we as nurses learn in a clinical setting, we noticed that one of the biggest gaps is education, clinical readiness. We were talking, it's hard for people to even find spots to do their clinical preceptorship. So I just wanted to know how your company, I don't want to butcher the name, Calhack, am I saying it correctly?
Yeah, Kahek. Yes.
How are you simplifying and revolutionizing this space to make the connection more seamless and equitable?
Gosh, well, let me just tell you, I've been a nurse for over 25 years, and I don't know if you remember when you were in clinicals, but it was nerve-wracking. I don't know if you remember that. You were told you have to go to clinicals at these different facilities. You have to find someone who's going to work with you all those hours. And you know what? It's 2025, and it hasn't changed at all. In fact, it's probably gotten worse because the healthcare climate and educational climate is so competitive. There's so many schools in the system. They're all vying for the same clinical locations and rotations. So at CAHEC, we're removing that friction between education and practice. If we build a platform, think about it as like Uber for clinical matching, that helps make finding preceptors, finding and paying preceptors seamless, transparent, and equitable. So no more gatekeeping, no more unpaid mentorship. I mean, yeah, you can do it for free. There are lots of folks who support their alma mater. There are other reasons it's unpaid. But one of the things in the economy of 2025, where eggs are sometimes $8 a dozen, it's really challenging for clinicians with all the burnout and all the other things that we're asking them to do, just to continue to give away their time, sometimes hundreds of hours for free, or maybe for a $5 Starbucks gift card and a bouquet of flowers, which may have been nice in the 90s, but in 2025 it's kind of hard. So how do you create an ecosystem where everyone wins and you're not really breaking the bank? So we're connecting this ecosystem where the schools, students, and clinicians can focus on what really matters, developing competent, confident healthcare professionals with a high quality clinical rotation experience where there's a high level of transparency on the school side, not just on the industry side, where a lot of times schools are kind of beholden to what they can get, and they need to have some transparency around it. And they actually need to help to control that narrative as well for their students.
Oh, this is powerful. I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to hear more about it, but we're just opening up their appetite. This is a little
Absolutely.
appetite.
Absolutely.
This is absolutely incredible what you have created. I wanted to pivot a little bit to your inner journey for leadership, because you've been leader for over 25 years. Many great leaders experience imposter syndrome at some point in their life. Have you ever faced that? And what has helped you to move through the moments of imposter syndrome with confidence and grace?
That's kind of a tough one. I definitely have felt imposter syndrome. I faced it in my past, especially as a new leader. Um,
Mhm.
Stepping into rooms where I was the only one who looked like me, especially in the tech world where you don't really find a lot of clinicians who are in the tech world at the table making decisions and helping to guide the dev teams and the executive leadership into what clinicians really need and what they really want.
Mhm.
And so, what helped me is to remember that every system that exists today was built by people, not perfection, right?
Ooh,
So,
exactly.
just knowing that, and it helps me understand and remember that I belong in every room I walk into because I'm there to help build something better for others.
Mm, that's powerful. And you are needed. You are needed. Now shifting a little bit back to nursing education. I'm all over the place tonight. As we bridge the gap between clinical experience and academic preparation, what new opportunities do you see emerging for nursing professionals, and especially how we prepare and empower the next generation of nurses?
Yeah, so this is one that it can be a little bit of a difficult conversation because there you have to be open to having the tech enabled conversation, right? We're
Mm,
moving towards a model where, everyone talks about AI and, I understand that, but you have to be able to combine the tech component, maybe a little bit of AI component. You have to have hands on. It takes a nurse to make a nurse, it takes a doctor to make a doctor. So you need to keep that human component of the work that we're doing. So the
mhm.
next generations of nurses will not only just know and learn how to care, but they need to understand the why. A lot of times, back in the day, you get into nursing because you just want to do the right thing, you want to support the patients. But now that there's a whole science behind it that people really need to understand. And so the data, the storytelling, and actually having that experiential learning opportunity that helps make that learning stick is where clinical readiness and clinical judgment is going to thrive. And it's not delayed by logistics, but accelerated by connection and technology.
Ooh, you're really spearheading something very new, because some places they're now getting on board with the electronic medical record. Just being
Absolutely.
honest, right? And you are like miles ahead. You're like deep into technology and really bringing this into the clinical space. So thank you for being in rooms that most of us don't even know exist. I will say it like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. That's true. We really don't have a chance to get in those rooms because they don't know we exist. And I think also one thing, Casey, that you may even notice is that every clinician doesn't know everything. So, for example, a nurse is not a nurse is not a nurse. So you may think that you know the answers. Not you per se, but a tech exec or someone outside of healthcare may see a nurse like, oh, you should know how to fix a nursing shortage, but they don't realize there's so many layers. So a new grad may not have any clue where to start. So making sure you're asking the right people, understanding who knows what. A nurse executive is very different from a cardiovascular intensive care nurse versus a nursing informatics nurse. And so outside of the healthcare realm, we don't really have opportunity to share our knowledge to the extent that we could if we were asked.
That's true. A lot of times we're not asked.
That's right.
And I think you just showing up in some of these rooms, it really turns heads where they say we should be asking the right
That's
people.
right. That's right.
Mm, thank you.
Mhm.
So going back to technology and transformation, we have all these AI and digital tools and they're evolving so quickly. What do you see as the biggest opportunities and perhaps the greatest challenges we'll need to navigate technology as it continues to reshape healthcare?
Um, I think the biggest opportunity is personalization. Using AI data to connect the right student to the right preceptor at the right moment. All of those things are tools just to help accelerate what we are already doing through manual labor. But the greatest challenge is just making sure we don't lose the heart of healthcare in the process. So,
Okay.
granted, I understand you can build a robot who can go in and, change dressings or give medications or whatever, but part of the healing process is human touch. And so technology should never replace empathy, it should amplify it.
It should. And I'm going to get on a soapbox here because we all know what happened when they start doing this education. Like you have to do your annual education, and they start doing it where there is no, back in the day, we used to go to the little classes and stuff like that. Now that's to a minimum, and most of it is on the computer. And now they're using AI. But these people mad boring, and you can see everybody, they got it playing in the background.
That's
Nobody
right.
listening to a thing. So when it's time to actually implement things, people don't have the information because they didn't retain it. So nobody really asks us, is this a way that, like, yes, it might be cost effective, but is it really effective and connecting with people in the clinical space?
That's right. That's right. And when you're hurting, when you're sick, when you want someone to listen to, yeah, that type of stuff is efficient. But when you, for example, something as simple as starting an IV, yeah, you can look at a module, you can even do it in a sim lab, but there's nothing like touching a 95-year-old patient who has really rolling veins. And, an expert nurse can teach you how to do that in a way that's kind, that provides a level of empathy and shows you how to maneuver the entire process from the time you walk into the room to the time you finish the procedure and clean up and exit and ask what else they need outside of just the procedure. And those are the things that sometimes are missing when you kind of do those iterations of or snippets of education where you get the content, but not
Mhm.
necessarily the context that you need to be successful.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think a lot of nursing is, and I don't know why it resonates with a human more, but not replacing. Like these technologies are not supposed to replace the humanity in our
That's right.
profession. Just help us boost us up a little
That's
bit.
right. That's right. It should augment. It should not replace.
Yeah, but I see a lot of people, they think this is going to replace, and the results of that is going to be catastrophic because there's going to be a big communication loop. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I do love technology, and I do want it to be embraced well, but I want it to be successful. If you were in front of 100 nurse leaders and you're talking about your product, using technology in a positive way, in a way that really augments what we really have today, what would be your call to action to them so that they can embrace it as a tool for empowerment instead of being something to fear? Because you're bringing in nurse like that's kind of like an entrepreneur where the nurse can make a little hustle, doing good, helping the students.
Absolutely.
They might be scared.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of power you're giving them.
But you know what, Casey? I know
Mhm.
I've been a preceptor many times. We're already doing it.
Yes,
It's not
we
anything
are.
new. We're
Mhm.
already being asked by schools all over the country to take students and to do all these things in addition to the work we're doing. So there's nothing new. All we're doing is trying to unlock the folks who are just riding the fence or, who are not really sure. So when you're thinking about my call to action is simple. Stop waiting for permission to innovate.
Yeah.
Technology is coming for us. It's not coming for us, it's coming with us. So if
Mhm.
we are looking at it as the enemy, we're always going to have issues, and our focus is not on the patient, it's on trying to stop the technology, which is coming anyway. So nurses have always been the translators between humanity and science, always. So let's bring the same courage into the digital transformation with heart, curiosity, and ownership. Own the process. Don't be so quick to say I'm not going to do it. If you don't get on board and help to create it and help to address the iterations of it, it's gonna people are going to come in who have no idea what you do and tell you how you should do your job.
Yeah, it's true. And you didn't hear it from me, but I think when it comes to the academic space, I think you hear a lot where they say, "Oh, don't pay for preceptorship, don't pay." But you know what? You didn't hear from me, but people get paid, and then it creates an unfair market. So why, instead of us resisting what's not happening, let's embrace it. It's kind of like when social media first came out and they were like, "Oh, don't go on social media." So now people are scared to death about social media. But then when they do go on there, it's like they go crazy. Let's teach them how to use it in a safe way, in a way that is equitable.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why I was saying earlier, these schools and universities and colleges really need to help own the narrative. So right now you're having some of these third party folks who are charging anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 for clinical training sites, which you're right, it causes a lot of inequity with who the haves and have nots and the types of clinical rotations you can get. But it's the schools, and that's why our aim is really more of aligning with schools to give them the power to say, hey, we can create the infrastructure. We can identify what we can and can't do. We know our budgets. We know what our students can afford. We know our philanthropic support, and be able to create a pipeline that really makes sense so they can actually scale their enrollment. I mean, unfortunately, because of the lack of capacity, schools are capped a lot of times at like 25, 30, 40 seats. And you have literally, if you think about it, you may have a school that has 50 seats, right? In a PA program or a nursing program, and you may only have 40 preceptors who are willing to do it for free, right? But guess what? There are probably like 400 or 500 PAs and nurses in the area. They just don't want to do it because they feel burned out and there's no incentive for them. There's no what's in it for them other than the right thing to do. And you can't make people volunteer their time. So that's kind of my thoughts around it. It's very disruptive, but you have to do something totally disruptive to really open up those barriers and really drive change and support that impact and quality care.
I love it. You have been a strong advocate for advancing equity in education and care delivery. What does equity look like to you in the context of clinical education? How can organizations make it a living practice rather than just a stated value?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a really good one. Um, gosh, that's really deep. So I have really thought a lot of thoughts around that. Equity in clinical education means opportunity, and it shouldn't depend on your zip code, your network, or your last name. And I know it's really deep, but that's the thing, right? It should mean a student in rural Montana deserves the same access to mentorship as one in Los Angeles. It's about designing systems where fairness is aspirational, not operational. And I've heard so many stories where you hear about, physicians who are going to residency, and there are folks who've tried, who actually didn't get matched. And then someone else got it because they have a family member who was faculty, or, their family has money and has a name of a building. Right. Or you just happen to be in population centers where there's more access. But the folks in rural America, they're suffering and they really don't have the bandwidth to be able to expand the way they need to provide healthcare for their population. So it's really important. Health equity is not just about race or culture. It's about where you live. If you live in a rural part of America where you're 100 miles from a hospital, sometimes all you have is a nurse practitioner who is close by and you really need that access. But if you don't offer clinical rotation opportunities in those spaces, you don't know where they can go and how they can expand and provide that support in those spaces.
Wow, this is powerful. I'm glad I asked you that question because
Thanks for
brings
asking.
it brings so much. My questions are really to draw out who you are to the audience, and the intention is really to evoke conversation. So I would love to see what the listeners are writing in the comments below. Please put your comments. I want to hear this conversation go on. Okay, I have another question for you. I got all the
Okay.
questions.
All right. I have all the answers. Maybe I don't know.
Sorry, all the questions. Okay, so this one is about sustainable innovation because you didn't just wake up one day and here is Calhack, it appears on the scene. You've been
Yeah,
working on this in the background for years.
absolutely.
So I really want to get your thoughts on this. The change in healthcare, it can be slow and met with a lot of resistance. What have you learned about creating lasting, meaningful change within large systems? And how can emerging leaders become catalysts for that kind of transformation?
Casey, the secret to lasting change is humility. I've learned you can't push transformation on at people. You have to build it with them. They have to be part of the solution for sustainable change,
Mhm.
because something could happen to me. I could win that $1 billion lottery and I'm off to the islands, and the work would stop if I stopped at me. So you have to build it with people. When people feel seen, and they feel part of the solution, the resistance turns into ownership. And an emerging leader, you should focus on progress, not perfection. I'm going to say that over and over again. And when you're in the entrepreneurial space, that's important as well, because you can build a perfect product, but by the time it's perfect, 5 other people have already built it and have made, significant gains ahead of you. So change that sticks happens one courageous conversation at a time, planting that seed, having the conversations, doing the research, understanding the problem, and really intentionally seeking out how do you fix this problem, and bring those thought leaders in with you to help be part of the solution.
I love this. Now I'm gonna stand on a little soapbox. No, there's this book I read, and I don't know why her last name's not coming to me, but her first name is Elizabeth, and she talked about how ideas come into this world, and it's so interesting because some people they wait till they have the perfect product to launch, and then they launch it, and somebody else beat them to it, and then they get upset and they say that person stole my idea. And what I thought was fascinating about her book is that she says ideas don't belong to one person. So everybody gets, different ideas, and the one who acts on it quickly is the one who owns it. So
Absolutely.
I really like how you say progress, not perfection. Because as
Mhm.
nurses, sometimes we wait too long to actually execute our ideas, and other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I agree. Some nurses are innovators. They're right. They go for it. I'm sure you've had people you've worked with. They have a problem in their department, and they just come up with they create something and they fix the problem, right? And then you have
Yeah.
others who just complain about it, and they complain about it, and they complain about it, and they become a victim of complaining versus actually part of the solution. So it's really important to be the innovator who helps to push change, to look at evidence-based practice, to do your due diligence, ask questions. Is it just in your department, or are you finding it in every single hospital you work at? If that's the case, then you've probably created something, a solution for a problem that no one has really taken the time. Just create it, put it out there, and things will kind of take on a life of its own if you are really actively seeking a solution.
Yes, I believe that. And I'm
Mhm.
going to put a plug in here because by the time this comes out, my newsletter would have already been out. But I just wrote a newsletter, and I really think that because as nurses, we like to complain a lot. We do. I will own it. But this is why I put in the newsletter we complain. I believe because the nurses who complain, I believe that they lack one quality, and that's confidence, confidence in their own brilliance.
Mhm.
So they are complaining because they actually have the solution within them,
I
and they
believe
don't have confidence to execute on it, or they don't want the responsibility to own it. But I think that every complainer, they're actually many brilliant people that are walking around. That's what I
Yeah,
believe.
absolutely, absolutely. It's funny that you say that. How many times have you seen a non-nurse create a nursing solution? You probably
Mm,
can, so many times, and you're like, I'm sure a nurse said something to this physician, this PA, this entrepreneur, and the idea came from a nurse, but they just didn't have the confidence in their own idea to take
mm,
it forward, or they didn't necessarily know the steps they needed to take, the first step to get it going. And
yeah.
so they tell people their idea, and they do take it and
They
they
take
run
it.
with it. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
They,
yeah. So it's
they
really important that yeah.
I believe so, and I think that's and I don't know if I'm not just trying to be positive and say they're really brilliant, but I think sometimes we measure brilliance in such an intellectual way only that we
Mhm.
forget that there's so many different types of intelligences, and the intelligence that people hold, we could be just part of a bigger picture to, to actually bring something to life. But that's a whole story in a I ain't gonna keep you long enough, but I wanted to ask you one last question, and this one is more on the personal side.
Sure.
Um, After 25 years in leadership, and now you're into entrepreneurship, what's one defining moment that shifted how you lead and how you see your purpose in healthcare today?
Gosh, I have a few moments, but I would say one of the most recent moments that helped me to pivot into entrepreneurship is during the pandemic. I think that was really a pivotal moment for a lot of folks where no one had the answers, right? You're in the height of the pandemic. At the time, I was working for a tech-enabled staffing agency, and there were 7,000 clinicians across the country trying to make things work. We're working through policies, we're talking to state leaders and all of these things. But at the end of the day, no one could fix how people were feeling. There needed to be
Mm,
strong leadership. Leadership could fix it. Confident leadership could really fix it. So people knew who to go to, not necessarily for answers, but for someone to help guide them and point them in the direction they needed to go, and knew that we were there for them. So for me, it shifted my purpose from managing systems to more humanizing them and realizing that when we're looking at all these broken pieces, that ha- being a leader and not, um, I would say, falling back and letting it take over and consume you. That's the heart of everything I know, from the bedside to the boardroom. Don't be afraid to be a leader during the hard times. Be there for your team. Even if you don't know the answers, it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'm here for you. And we'll figure this out together. And like I said, I think that for me, that time during COVID, it was just so many unknowns that we had to figure it out. And the leaders, there's so many of us, and so many that I really admire who rose to the top, that people are now even continuing to this day to follow, because we were courageous to do something different. And I appreciate all of that.
that's amazing. Shout out to you wonderful leaders out there. Thank you for being such an excellent leader yourself and pivoting your leadership now to leading the way for many nurses to make an income or have a taste in entrepreneurship in a very different way. Now, listeners, you heard I asked her all my questions, all of them. That's
We
my
got through
brain.
all of
She's an amazing person. If you're not connected with Elaina McAdams, please connect with her. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. YouTube, the spark is love. We're going, we're going, we're going. We're not going to stop anytime soon. And if you have any questions to this lovely, lovely nurse, please leave the comments below. I'll make sure that she gets back to it. Please reach out to her, find out what she's doing. We are all open for collaborations and really bringing her solutions into practice. We can't wait. Are you launched yet? Are you fully launched?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're in the Apple Store, the Google Play Store, and I believe we're going to have a link for folks who are interested in some of the states and areas that we are launching in our beta site. So we have pilot schools who are in the innovative space, and they are leading change. And I'm super excited for them and for what's to come.
So if you want to be part of it, reach out to her and see how you could connect with her. Maybe you could pilot it in your own city. I don't know if that's a thing, but
It is. It is. It is. It is. We're looking for those innovative healthcare academic leaders who have been pulling their hair out for years, trying to find clinical rotations for their nurses and pharmacists and radiology techs, you name it. We want to be a partner in
okay.
figuring this out in a scalable way, so we won't have this crisis is looming in the next couple of years.
Yes. Wow. Thank you for being ahead of the curve. And how do you say it? Because I want to say it correctly. It's going to be in the link below.
It is, but let me just tell you the whole acronym and why it's an acronym. So,
Yeah.
the name of the company is the College and University Healthcare Education Consortium. And so, CAHEC is the acronym. It's just easier to say that, it's a little bit quicker, but it really does speak to us being in a agnostic space where we're not tied to a system or a college or university, but we land in a very neutral space to help both sides fix a really big problem.
You and your team, you've done amazing. I can't wait to see it full rollout, and we'll definitely have to have you back on the show.
Absolutely, Casey. Thank you so much for your time. This was fun. I appreciate it.
Thank Yes, it is. Thank you. And thank you, you wonderful viewers, for sticking with us and listening. And we'll see you next week, every Sunday, 4 p.m. Join in. Thank you.